So, we started with the same title, that cloud gaming is real. I'll talk more about the cloud and most about the real side, but the context is the same. So, maybe a word about my background. I'm not coming from gaming at all. I'm more interested in technology in Israel that might interest IBM. That's kind of the direction I'm taking, rather than start from IBM and ask, what could be of interest to them. So trying to suggest to IBM topics of interest. And I've been actually following Playcast for several years before even Yuval, I think, joined. And at that time, the motivation for the interest was the following. It said that in the recent maybe 20 years, technology moved from the data centers to the home because of bandwidth. So you could see CDs, in the home, piling up in the home, because there was no way to play music over the network. Recent years have seen the other way around. Data moving to the data centers, if you wish, you call it cloud, from the home. Question is, does compute also move to the data centers? How about storage and so on? So there are several companies in Israel that demonstrate this shift of moving data and compute from the home to the data center. In its current incarnation, you call it cloud, but these are basically central places where you run your software or you store your data and so on and so forth. And the other observation is, can you take it into extreme and think about it, in very general terms, could there be one data center globally where all homes will be served from? So this goes to the question of distance. What is the value of distance and for what? So just to get a sense, you see here some information, right? I mean, response time of the best athlete in the world is 100 milliseconds, meaning 0.1 second. In 0.1 second, light goes around the world. To get another feeling, for light to go to Haifa and back, I'm from Haifa, right? It's 1,000th of a second. How much is 1,000th of a second? Is that a lot or not? Well, just to get a feel, if you have a disk and it rotates as fast as it can, in a computer disk, it takes 4 of those. So 4 times, light goes back and to Haifa and back. 4 times it travel, the disk rotates 1 rotation. So if you take the disk too far, you will feel the time. If it is in Haifa, it's not so bad. If you talk about the eye, we can see, notice that there is discontinuity if you are slower than 40 milliseconds. So the numbers are not that far from each other. These are not, huge differences between these order numbers. It's not order of magnitude. In other words, if you have video, it's 40 milliseconds. I think you use the same number. If you have a protocol which is very chatty, so data goes back and forth many times, you can get into these numbers easily. In other words, if you don't want to change applications very carefully and adapt to distance, it will better be close enough. So distance is important. Take another view which has nothing to do with technology. It has to do with human nature. It's about attention. How much time will pass before you lose I lose your attention? Probably very fast, right? Very quickly. So there is an attention economy, right? We have to capture attention of people, we have to keep it, and so on and so forth. It has to be very responsive. Now, this is not a new phenomenon. If you look at this guy at the bottom, Simon, he got Nobel Prize for observing something which, I put in red over there on the top. which says, wealth of information creates poverty of attention. If there is too much information, there is so much information in the world, and so little attention. So how do you solve that? So let's see, and we'll converge into video in a minute. Let's see how can we attract attention and keep attention and use the best channel into people's mind, given that there is shortage of attention. So here are three methods to do this. First of all, maybe you designed the application very well, so by nature, it keeps the attention of the audience. So that's number one. This requires invention, obviously. Good books have that, good movies have that, good applications have it. That's design technology. If you go to item number 2 and you say, okay, assume that I have huge amount of information, I don't have time to present it to you all, so I'll better summarize it very condensedly. So I'll get the insights out of huge amount of information. This is called analytics. Right? I mean, you summarize things, make it very short, maybe one sentence, or one graph, or maybe a little video. And it's so condensed and such a good summary that you don't care about the details of the full data set. The third way, there is this saying, picture is worth 1,000 words, right? This is kind of very popular quotation. Video is even more dense. If you show a video, it's a sequence of images. So if something can be done in one image, if you have a sequence of those, you can even convey stronger amount of information or larger amount of information in the same period of time. So conceptually, you could also combine number 2 and number 3, meaning present video, but also do analytics on video in order to make it shorter. So video is very important. I put it in red. Video is memorable, effective, and easy to consume and share. Now notice I'm not talking about games. I'm talking about the video aspect, meaning the technology aspect that Yuval talked about. Now let's talk about 3 pillars. These are the 3 strategic pillars that IBM believes in. There is data, cloud, and engagement. These are the 3. Data, we talked about, there is huge amount of data. You have to analyze it, get it shorter. There is cloud, which is a way to cope with so much information, because a single machine cannot do it. You cannot do it in yourself. On yourself, you have to collect the information by many, many people, maybe millions of them, do some analysis. Cannot do it, in your data center sometimes. Sometimes you do need a cloud, so you get into the top, into the bottom right corner. But then there is engagement. Engagement meaning you have to engage with people. And remember, you have to do this and keep the attention. So engaging with people, keeping the attention, is the third corner of this triangle. These are the 3 elements. If you focus for a minute on engagement with whom? Engagement is always with people, but what kind of people? There are 2 kinds of people that are interested to the businesses. One is the customers, and the other one are the employees. These are both people. Sometimes they have dual roles. But you have to engage with customers, and you have to engage with employees. So you see the 2 colors, employees and customers, and these are both belong to the engagement side. So there are many things you can do on the engagement and employees. There are many things you can do when you engage with people, but if you believe that engagement, to do good engagement, you can use video, now you close the loop. In order to do video, you have to be nearby, like Yuval said. In order to be nearby, it's not enough to have one data center. You have to have them distributed around the world, in sufficient proximity. So this is the soft layer philosophy. Soft layer is a cloud division in IBM. It used to be the largest private cloud company in the world before it was acquired by IBM. The philosophy is to be present in the different regions. Actually, the target is to have 40 data centers globally. So one of them will be close enough to everyone. So that's one element. If you look at it, so that's the broad geographic presence. You want to have strong connectivity so people can move between these data centers, like 40 of them very soon. And the network has to be very available, very high bandwidth, and then deploy it in different ways. And I think what Yuval described was what we call bare metal. Bare metal meaning run your applications on the machine itself as if it is in your data center. The Amazon model says you run it in a virtualized mode. You are not as careful in controlling the resources that you have. Soft layer covers the two extremes and everything in the middle. So you can run everything in virtualized mode, where machines are shared between people and you pay per use, or you can run them in bare metal, meaning on the physical hardware with graphical processing units, GPUs, attached to them. You can have that, and you can have everything in the middle, meaning maybe have some of your computing needs on the hardware and some of the computing needs in a shared environment. So when you have peak time, you use shared machines. When you have some basic services, maybe better paying customers, you use the bare metal and so on. So that's basically the model. So I think for IBM, games is a very important use case. Actually, soft layer has more than 100 million people playing games on soft layer machines today. So it's a very important use case, but it is one use case among many that are developing these days in order to cover the engagement model that I mentioned. Thank you.